Welcome, Pranam sir.
Pranam.
Honorable Raksha Mantri ji, Shri Rajnath Singh ji, Mr. Michael Farmer from the United States Embassy, our National President, Mr. Purnachandra Rao, our Regional President, Mr. Raman Roy, all other dignitaries, panelists participating in this webinar. It's indeed a great privilege for us to have the participation of the Honorable Minister, Shri Rajnath Singh ji, who is one of the most respected figures in the Indian politics and a great administrator, recognized not only in India, but across the world. He's playing a pivotal role so far as the Indo-US cooperation is concerned, and particularly in the field of defense, aerospace, and other connected and related activities. Bilateral economic engagement that is between the US and India is growing. And this is evident that the Honorable Minister Shri Rajnath Singh himself is participating in this webinar. There have been certain events also which have taken place in the last 10 to 15 days, which also clearly define and highlight the role played by the Indo-US cooperation and chambers like the Indo-American Chambers of Commerce. Recently, that is only last week, India and US have expanded their energy partnership, such as hydrogen and biofuels. Our Minister, Honorable Minister Shri Hardeep Puri, and the Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm, they participated in a virtual meeting only last week. Then the US Special Presidential Envoy for Climate, that is Mr. John Kerry, he was here and he had very fruitful discussions and meetings with his counterparts in India, and he assured that US will assist India in attracting finance and technology to achieve its 450 GW renewable energy target for 2030. And to top it, our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi will be having a face-to-face meeting with Honorable President Biden on 24th of September in Washington, as a part of the Quad meeting. But what is very significant is the Honorable Prime Minister's address only yesterday in connection with the Indo-US cooperation. And I take liberty to quote from that what the Honorable Prime Minister said. He said, among the largest economies of the world, India and United States of America enjoy a vibrant partnership in trade and commerce. An Indo-US dialogue among the stakeholders in trade, commerce, and business of both nations will enhance synergy and cooperation. The presence of business entrepreneurs, industry captains, and other stakeholders at this summit is an opportunity to take Indo-US partnership to greater heights. The deliberation at the summit will surely look at ways to chart a visionary roadmap to enable the economies to bounce back for the larger good. So these are the words of no other person than our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, about our summit, which has been graced today by the Honorable Defence Minister, Shri Rajnath Singh ji. So I welcome you, sir. And now I request Mr. Raman Roy to please take over. Mr. Raman Roy, our regional president.
Namaskar, sir. May I join Dr. Lalit Bhasin, our summit chair, to welcome you all to this important summit. I'm particularly delighted by the presence of our Honorable Defence Minister, our Raksha Mantri, Shri Rajnath Singh amongst us today to share his views and perceptions on how the private sector can get actively involved in the defense sector to supplement and complement the government efforts. Sir, Indo-US partnership has been substantially enriched by the Indo-US involvement in defense and aerospace. ISCC and their members play a big role in this. I feel it is still an area that is evolving and can be a catalyst of taking our partnership to a totally different plane. A lot of importance is being assigned by both our countries for building strong strategic relations in the evolving geopolitical architecture. Let me, sir, with your permission, flag a few recent developments. Our two countries are grappling with new issues like regional security, evolving strategic challenges, and a whole lot of other pressing agendas. That really calls for an enduring partnership between our two oldest and strongest democracies, since peace and tranquility is a prerequisite for a speedy global recovery from the negative effects caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. In this context, the visit of the US Secretary of Defense, General Lloyd Austin, to India in recent months was, in my opinion, pretty significant, sir. Let me also flag some of the blazing developments that have taken place in our strategic partnership since 2014, sir. The US recognizing India as a major defense partner with STA1, the Strategic Trade Authorization, was a major milestone in our defense relations, sir. The signing of the Communications Compatibility and Security Agreements, COMCASA, in 2018, the Industrial Security Annex in 2019, and the Basic Exchange and Cooperation Agreement, BICA, in 2020 are all major landmarks in our bilateral relations. The annual 2+2 dialogues now, in which you represented India, the quadrilateral security dialogue among India, US, Australia, and Japan are major turning points in our bilateral defense and strategic cooperation. Indeed, sir, these discussions have also opened up an increasing number of bilateral and multilateral business opportunities. Sir, at ISCC, we are treating these landmark developments as pointers to shape our growing track to engagements. As the regional president of the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce for North India, let me welcome this August gathering once again, sir, and look forward to fruitful discussions as we go into it. Again, sir, thank you for sparing time for us. Back to you, Dr. Bhasin.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Raman Roy. I have great pleasure and it's a great privilege to request the National President, Mr. Purna Chandra Rao, to please make his presentation of 2 minutes. Thank you. Unmute.
Respected Dr. Lalit Bhasin, Mr. Raman Roy, Mr. William L. Blair, Vice President and Chief Executive, Lockheed Martin India Private Limited, our Chief Guest, Shri Rajnath Singh Ji, Hon'ble Minister for Defence, Government of India, distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to express my deepest regards and sincerest thanks to our Hon'ble Minister, Shri Rajnath Singh Ji, for sparing his valuable time and joining us today at this virtual meeting webinar on 18th Indo-US Economic Summit. I would also like to congratulate my colleagues Dr. Lalit Bhasin, Mr. Raman Roy, Regional Director Kashish Tyagi, and entire team of NIC in organizing this virtual summit. Let me begin by saying a few words about ISCC. ISCC organized more than 90 events since its annual general meeting in the last week of September 2020. Shared democratic values and growing convergence on bilateral, regional, and global issues have provided a strong base for India-US relations, which have now evolved into a strategic partnership of global significance. We are witnessing growth and change in investment sentiments with new political leadership in the USA under President Joe Biden, which is very well complementing with the dynamic leadership at India under Prime Minister Modi ji. India and USA strategic partnership is the key to strengthen Quad Alliance. The four member countries, India, the United States, Japan, and Australia, are committed to developing Indo-Pacific cooperation. The alliance would be crucial to discuss and develop the partnership in areas of maritime security, connectivity, including technology issues, supply chain issues, and vaccine production. Both countries are collaborating and coordinating on a number of regional and global issues in both security as well as development spheres. Two nations have made significant progress in counter-terrorism. There has been considerable progress with enhanced intelligence sharing, information exchange, and operational cooperation. Defense relationship has emerged as a major pillar of India-US strategic partnership. With intensification in defense trade, joint exercises, personal exchanges, and cooperation in maritime security and counter-piracy. India-US defense trade has grown manifold in recent years, with the US becoming one of India's top defense suppliers. Defense relations are today the brightest area of US-India cooperation. Aggregate worth of defense-related acquisitions from the US is more than US 21 billion. In June 2016, the US recognized India as a major defense partner to facilitate technology sharing to a level commensurate with that of its allies and partners. India's elevation to Tier 1 of the Strategic Trade Authorization License exception in year 2018 facilitates interaction in advanced and sensitive technologies. India-US strategic partnership is based on the other areas as well, such as strategic energy partnership, cyber dialogue, civil space working group, trade policy forum, defense policy group, and many more. It is evident that the Indo-US strategic partnership is crucial for both countries. Hon'ble Minister Rajnath Singh ji, the US Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin's visit in India in March 2021 was a reflection of the importance of which the United States accords to India. Reportedly, the discussion with you included ways to strengthen military-to-military engagement and bilateral defense trade, including industry collaboration. So, under your leadership and guidance, India's role as a security provider in the region has been increasing. There is a quantifiable progress in bilateral ties, creating space for continued engagement and progress. Sir, we at IACC would like to join hand and support government in every initiative and contribute towards forging strong bilateral partnership between India and the United States. Later this year, you would be participating in the fourth round of 2+2 ministerial dialogue in Washington, D.C. On behalf of the Indian-American Chamber of Commerce, I wish you good luck. Wishing all you a fruitful day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, National President, Mr. Purna Chandra Rao. I have great pleasure now to request Dr. Vivek Lal, who actually represents the face of India-US cooperation. Started in a big way in India, and now he's the Chief Executive of General Atomics Global Corporation of the United States. Over to you, Dr. Vivek Lal.
Dr. Bhasin, Honorable Minister of Defence, Shri Rajnath Singh ji, esteemed panelists, ladies and gentlemen, on the kind invitation of this distinguished summit chair, Dr. Bhasin, it's a distinct honor to address you. At the outset, India's recent achievements in attaining self-sufficiency in the defense domain have been outstanding. The new indigenous aircraft carrier Vikrant, as an example, is a testament to India's shipbuilding industry and has catapulted India into the select group of elite countries which have the capability to manufacture aircraft carriers. India's capabilities in building nuclear submarines is a remarkable achievement, and these go hand in hand with Prime Minister Modi's vision of Make in India. As the Indian defense industry steadily marches towards the goal of Atmanirbhar Bharat, Indian R&D centers and manufacturing hubs are competing with the world's best. And it certainly is a testament to you, Shri Rajnath Singh ji, for your leadership, and we congratulate you. US and India indeed have developed deep relationships over the past 2 decades, spanning across economic, cultural, and political affiliations, and are poised for even greater cooperative efforts in the years to come. We at General Atomics, based here in San Diego, specialize in defense and diversified research and technology development, whether it's unmanned systems like the Guardian or electromagnetic launch and recovery systems, and whether it is some of our nuclear fusion and fission programs. We see great potential in India, and we see that collaboration, not just in manufacturing, but in some of the high-end value-add aspects, such as sensor development and ISR data management, are the future for the bilateral relationship. We really thank you, Shri Rajnath Singh ji, for creating an environment of leadership in this bilateral relationship. And we look forward to great progress in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You, Dr. Vivek Lal, that was really short and sweet, but full of substance. I have great pleasure now in requesting Mr. William L. Blair, Vice President and Chief Executive, Lockheed Martin India Private Limited, to please make his presentation. Over to you, Mr. Blair.
And, Honorable Minister of Defense, appreciate the opportunity for your participation and to address this, and to my other esteemed panelists. I'm currently sitting in Hyderabad right now, where we just recognized the 150th C-130J empennage delivery from our Tata Lockheed Martin joint venture here, which has been a great example of Make in India, self-reliant India over the last decade. We also celebrated the end of our 10th year here as well. And I think it's a dimension that I think is symbolic and indicative of the strength of the US-India relationship, the collaboration that we've seen really over the last 10 to 15 years. Even just recently, over the last 5 years, 22% of the aerospace and defense exports from India to the US, 22% of the exports of aerospace and defense from India has been to the United States. And I think it's through joint ventures like this that's truly impactful, and we continue to see it grow. We also have been producing S-92 helicopter cabins here now. We're up over 157. And what's important in both of these examples is that initially it started in production and importing parts and assembly, and now we're up over 87 and pushing over 90% indigenous content. So we're making the parts, we're producing the strategic sub-assemblies, and we're on the path towards producing full aircraft. And we're also continuing to invest, and invest in advance of the requirements. So we've initiated this out of opportunity, not out of an offset obligation. In fact, we've invested well over our full offset obligation because we see tremendous opportunity. And so next month we'll be inaugurating our fighter wing production that supports the F-16 and our offering for the MRFA, the F-21, because we believe it's critically important as part of the Self-Reliant India initiative, but well in advance of that, that we are partnered in producing our best capabilities for India, but also to export that to meet a global requirement that I think sets us on a great trajectory for the defense export targets by 2025. And so, sir, Honorable Minister, I want to thank you for your leadership. The advancement of the defense acquisition procedure last year, the increase of the foreign direct investment to 74%, and we look forward to these emerging requirements on the fighter and the helicopters that I think is truly a catalyst for us to continue to extend our investment, our partnerships, and our presence in India under your leadership. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Blair. Thanks a lot. Now I'm going to request one very eminent part of the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce. It is Mr. Arun Karna, who is not only the regional president, but he's also a technocrat in the sense that he heads AT&T Global Network Services Limited as its managing director and CEO. So over to you, Mr. Karna.
Thank you, Dr. Bhasin. Honorable Minister of Defence, Shri Rajnath Singh ji, distinguished leaders, ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted and honored to join my earlier speakers in welcoming you and thanking you for gracing this occasion. The Indo-US partnership in defense and aerospace has grown manifold in substance and direction in the recent years. It is heartening to note that its pace of growth has seen a significant uptick in recent times under your visionary leadership, sir. During our discussions on this subject later in the program, I'm sure many important points would emerge, and one looks forward to hearing the thoughts of the distinguished speakers that we have lined up for today. One point that I would like to highlight here for your kind consideration, sir, relates to India's capabilities to emerge as the next defense manufacturing hub. If our, meaning India and US technologies and capital can come together, we can manufacture defense equipment for even strategic export locations to Asia and even beyond. That bonding also can empower not only the large companies, but also SMEs from both our countries, particularly for skilling people and to advance best practices. I know there are some initiatives already in that direction, but we probably have to broad base such activities to integrate India into the larger global supply chain. From India's perspective, sir, investments are needed in areas like maintenance, repair, and overhaul, so-called MRO, for the aerospace and defense sector, for aftermarket services, in industrial manufacturing, small arms and ammunition. Also, unmanned aerial vehicles or UAVs are of particular interest. That is critically important for India to achieve our target of $25 billion in defense goods and services by 2024. And I think that target is a bellwether for both countries. Let me conclude by saying that the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce will be the spirit of the summit to flag to the Indian industry the need for getting into the defense and aerospace sector, where there are huge opportunities for both our countries. Thank you once again, sir, and thanks to the August Assembly here, and look forward to the great sessions to follow. Thank you so much. Back to you, Dr. Bhasin.
Thank you, Mr. Karna. You very rightly highlighted the need for investments, you see, to be made in infrastructure and other important, as was highlighted by Honorable Minister Shri Gadkari in his address, you see, to the chamber, that he will give incentives for infrastructure investments to be made in India. So I think we are moving, and he was referring particularly to the investment to be made by the United States investors in India. So thanks for your address. So now, friends, the moment for which we were waiting, जिसका हमको बहुत इंतजार था, अब हमारे माननीय रक्षा मंत्री जी श्री राजनाथ सिंह जी, I would request him to please deliver his inaugural address as the chief guest of the Indo-US Economic Summit.
Okay. Thank you very much, Bhasin. Thank you very much. 18th Indo-US Economic Summit Chairman, Dr. L Bhasin, Mr. Raman Rai, Regional President, IACC, Mr. Puran Chandra Rao, National President, Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, Dr. Vivek Lal, Chief Executive, General Atomic Global Corporation, USA, Mr. William Blair, Vice President of Chief Executive, Lockheed Martin India Private Limited, Mr. Rohit Kochar, Regional Vice President, IACC, and the founding member and managing partner, co-chair and company. देवियों एवं सज्जनों, इंडो अमेरिकन चैम्बर ऑफ कॉमर्स द्वारा आयोजित यह इंडो यूएस इकोनॉमिक समिट ऐसे समय में हो रही है जब एक ग्लोबल पैंडेमिक के साथ साथ पूरी दुनिया कई इकोनॉमिक और जियोपॉलिटिकल चैलेंजेस का भी सामना कर रही है। कोविड-19 के कारण दुनिया भर में सप्लाई डिसरप्शंस, इंडस्ट्रियल एक्टिविटी में डाउनटर्न, ट्रेवल और टूरिज्म सेक्टर में लगभग स्टैंड स्टिल सिचुएशन के चलते लगातार 2 साल इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ को बहुत बड़ा झटका लगा है। अब जाकर फिस्कल ईयर 21-22 में हालात सुधरते हुए दिखाई दे रहे हैं। साथियों, हमारी सरकार द्वारा ऐसे कदम उठाए गए जिन्होंने आर्थिक गतिविधियों को फिर से पटरी पर लाने का काम किया है। पिछले साल जहां ग्रोथ में 24% कॉन्ट्रैक्शन देखा गया था, वहीं इस साल के पहले क्वार्टर में 20% का जंप भी देखा गया है। यह वी शेप रिकवरी भारत के साउंड इकोनॉमिक फंडामेंटल्स का एक संकेत है। और आप लोग जानते होंगे कि 2020 में इंडिया जहां 5th लार्जेस्ट एफडीआई रिसिपिएंट बना, वहीं वर्ल्ड बैंक द्वारा 2022 में 7.5% की ग्रोथ एक्सपेक्टेशन की गई है, जो दुनिया के हाईएस्ट ग्रोथ रेट में से एक है। और यह भी आप लोगों को जानकारी है कि फाइनेंशियल ईयर 22 में फर्स्ट क्वार्टर की ग्रोथ 20% से अधिक दर्ज की गई है। हालांकि इसमें बाउंस बैक के साथ साथ लो बेस इफेक्ट भी है, फिर भी यह आंकड़ा यह भरोसा देता है कि भारत ने अन्य देशों के कंपैरिजन में क्विकर एंड बेटर बाउंस बैक किया है। और इस ग्रोथ में इंडियन इंडस्ट्री का भी बहुत बड़ा कंट्रीब्यूशन है। कोविड के समय में जब देश में मास्क, पीपीई किट, वेंटिलेटर का संकट हुआ था, तो इंडियन इंडस्ट्री ने भारत सरकार के साथ कंधे से कंधा मिलाकर काम किया है। और अब देश में दुनिया की सबसे बड़ी वैक्सीनेशन ड्राइव चल रही है, तो उसमें भी इंडियन इंडस्ट्री का सिग्निफिकेंट रोल है। और मुझे आपको यह बताते हुए खुशी हो रही है कि 13 सितंबर तक देश में 75 करोड़ वैक्सीन डोज लगाए जा चुके हैं और जल्द ही यह संख्या 100 करोड़ को पार करेगी। साथियों, भारत में चल रही इस मैसिव वैक्सीनेशन ड्राइव ने देश की जनता को कोविड के संभावित खतरों से निपटने के लिए बहुत अच्छे तरीके से तैयार किया है। और कोविड की चुनौती के बावजूद हम फाइनेंशियल ईयर 22 में डबल डिजिट ग्रोथ की उम्मीद कर रहे हैं, मगर असली चुनौती होगी फाइनेंशियल ईयर 22 के बाद के वर्षों में भी एक 7 to 8% की एक हेल्दी ग्रोथ रेट मेंटेन करना, यह सबसे बड़ी चुनौती होगी। और हमारे प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी की लीडरशिप में हम फाइनेंशियल ईयर 22 के साथ साथ इस पूरे डिकेड में डायनेमिक ग्रोथ की तैयारी कर रहे हैं। और दुनिया भर के आर्थिक विशेषज्ञों का यह मानना है कि भारत के इकोनॉमिक पोटेंशियल को अनलॉक करने की शुरुआत अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी जी के प्रधानमंत्री रहने के दौरान हुई थी, क्योंकि उस समय देश ने 7 to 8% की अच्छी ग्रोथ देखी थी। और मैं मानता हूं कि इस ग्रोथ का प्लान तैयार करने का काम पीवी नरसिम्हा राव जी के जमाने में शुरू होने लगा था। और उस समय इंडियन इकोनॉमी को लिबरलाइज करने की शुरुआत हुई और यह सिलसिला उसके बाद भी जारी रहा, चाहे किसी भी दल की गवर्नमेंट आई। भारत की इकोनॉमी ओपन अप होने के बाद जिस तरह यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ने यहां इन्वेस्ट करने में रुचि दिखाई, उसका फायदा हमें हुआ। और भारत की आईटी इंडस्ट्री की सक्सेस स्टोरी लिखी गई और बाद के वर्षों में भी यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स का एक बहुत ही पॉजिटिव रोल रहा है। और मित्रों, India's economic ties with the United States have been very robust for decades, particularly since Indian economic reforms instituted in the 1990s significantly even during the years of Cold War, when Indian and the United States differed on many political issues in international affairs. The trade and investment relations were significant. The United States was the largest foreign investor in India and also was the largest trade partner of India. Friends, economic and technological cooperation between India and the United States became stronger in the post-COVID war era, much stronger during the global war against terrorism, and still more robust alongside Indo-US strategic partnership. And pandemic has brought newer challenges in terms of disruption to supply chains, downturn in industrial activities, negative growth in travel and tourism industry, and there is no doubt in Indo-US cooperation will go a long way to restore normalcy and further boost economic dynamism. और साथियों, मेरी इस ऑप्टिमिज्म की बड़ी वजह है आईटी सेक्टर में फिर से एक अच्छी खासी तेजी देखी जा रही है। इस कारण मैं ऑप्टिमिस्ट हूं क्योंकि ग्लोबलाइजेशन को अब डिजिटलाइजेशन का साथ मिल गया है और इसकी बहुत बड़ी डिमांड यूएस बेस्ड कंपनी से आ रही है। और आज जब इंडो यूएस चैम्बर ऑफ कॉमर्स के मंच से मैं यह सब कह रहा हूं तो मुझे यह कहते हुए बेहद खुशी होती है कि इंडिया और अमेरिका के बीच स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनरशिप है और पिछले 5-7 वर्षों में इन संबंधों में और भी प्रगति हुई है। न केवल स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनरशिप बल्कि उससे भी कहीं आगे इंडिया और यूएस के बीच आपसी विश्वास और म्यूचुअल इंटरेस्ट पर आधारित कंप्रिहेंसिव ग्लोबल स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनरशिप है। इकोनॉमी हो या पॉलिटिक्स, सोशल हो या डिफेंस, डाटा हो या एनर्जी, सभी क्षेत्रों में दोनों देश मजबूती के साथ मिलकर आगे बढ़े हैं। और मित्रों, आज की यह इंडो यूएस इकोनॉमिक समिट ऐसे समय हो रही है जब भारत अपनी आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव मना रहा है और इस अमृत महोत्सव में हमने सेल्फ रिलायंट इंडिया यानी आत्मनिर्भर भारत के निर्माण का संकल्प लिया है। और यह अवसर भारत की कंपनियों के लिए तो बड़ा अवसर है ही, साथ ही फॉरेन इंडस्ट्रीज, खासतौर पर यूएस बेस्ड इंडस्ट्रीज के लिए भी यह एक प्लेटिनम अपॉर्चुनिटी है। अब सवाल उठता है कि मैं इसे प्लेटिनम अपॉर्चुनिटी क्यों कह रहा हूं। इसकी एक वजह है कि जब 75 साल पूरे होते हैं तो उसे प्लेटिनम जुबली ईयर भी कहा जाता है। मगर इसके पीछे वजह है कि पिछले 100 महीनों में इस देश में कई बड़े स्ट्रक्चरल एंड प्रोसीजरल रिफॉर्म्स हुए हैं जिन्होंने भारत को इस डिकेड में ग्रोथ के मामले में एक क्वांटम जंप लगाने के लिए तैयार किया है। और हमने इस देश में कैपेबिलिटीज भी पैदा की है और कॉन्फिडेंस भी पैदा किया है। कैपेबिलिटीज भी पैदा की है और कॉन्फिडेंस भी पैदा किया है। अपॉर्चुनिटीज भी दिख रही हैं और ऑप्टिमिज्म भी दिख रहा है। यहां रिफॉर्म्स भी हो रहे हैं और परफॉर्म भी किया जा रहा है। हमारे प्रधानमंत्री इसे नया भारत कहते हैं और उन्होंने यह न्यू इंडिया का सपना एक न्यू वर्ल्ड के लिए देखा है। साथियों, भारत का सेल्फ रिलायंस का रेजोल्यूशन किसी वीक फाउंडेशन पर नहीं है बल्कि हमारी गवर्नमेंट ने इसके लिए काम किया है। आज फॉरेन डायरेक्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट के लिए द्वार पूरी तरह खुले हुए हैं and we have formulated progressive and investor friendly tax policies. We have said goodbye to retrospective taxation. Retrospective taxation को खत्म करने में गवर्नमेंट एंड इंडस्ट्री के बीच भरोसा बढ़ा है। ऐसा करके हमने पिछली सरकारों की जो थोड़ी बहुत गलती थी उसको सुधारा है। और आप जानते हैं एक समय था जब दुनिया के इन्वेस्टर्स इंडियन सिस्टम, खासतौर पर ब्यूरोक्रेसी में होने वाले रेड टेपिज्म की शिकायत करते थे कि भारत में बहुत रेड टेपिज्म है, यहां इन्वेस्ट करना बहुत ही कठिन है। आज हालात बदल गए हैं और हमने ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस में भी एक बड़ी लीप ली है, बड़ा जंप लगाई है हमने। अब ग्लोबल इन्वेस्टर्स को भारत में रेड टेपिज्म की तरह, रेड टेपिज्म की जगह रेड कारपेट मिल रहा है। और मित्रों, जब हम एक नया सशक्त और स्वाभिमानी भारत बनाने की बात करते हैं तो उसमें इकोनॉमिक सिक्योरिटी की भी एक बहुत ही अहम भूमिका है। और इसके लिए हमने इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट से जुड़े जो भी सेक्टर है, जैसे लैंड है, लेबर, कैपिटल एंड इंडस्ट्री, इन सब पर फोकस किया है। हमारे देश में एग्रीकल्चरल रिफॉर्म की जरूरत पिछले कई दशकों से महसूस की जा रही थी। अगर पिछली सरकारों ने इस दिशा में जितना काम होना चाहिए उतना काम कर नहीं पाए, लेकिन हमारी सरकार ने एक बोल्ड डिसीजन लिया और पार्लियामेंट में 3 नए एग्रीकल्चर लॉज पास किए गए, जिसकी वजह से अब एग्री सेक्टर में ग्रोथ पोटेंशियल का भी पूरा उपयोग हो सकेगा। और इन एग्री लॉज की वजह से भारत के किसानों को जहां एक आर्थिक मजबूती मिलेगी, वहीं उनकी इनकम बढ़ेगी, वहीं देश की फूड सिक्योरिटी भी मजबूत होगी। और जिस लेबर रिफॉर्म के बारे में कई सालों तक सोचा ही नहीं गया, उसे हमारी प्रधानमंत्री के इशारे पर सिंप्लीफाई कर दिया है। और पहले जहां कई दर्जन लेबर लॉज थे, आज they have been compressed into only 4 set of codes. और इनमें से जो सोशल सिक्योरिटी कोड, ऑक्यूपेशनल सेफ्टी, हेल्थ एंड वर्किंग कंडीशंस कोड और द इंडस्ट्रियल रिलेशन कोड हैं, उनकी वजह से लेबर सेक्टर में जहां मजदूरों को बेहतर सुविधाएं मिलेंगी, वहीं पुराने पड़ चुके कानूनों से छुटकारा भी मिल जाएगा। और साथ ही इन लेबर रिफॉर्म्स की वजह से देश में ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस में और अधिक सुधार होगा। साथियों, वहीं दूसरी तरफ हमारी सरकार ने कैपिटल फ्रंट पर विशेष रूप से बैंकिंग सेक्टर से जुड़े कई बड़े रिफॉर्म्स किए हैं। उदाहरण के तौर पर आप सबको जानकारी है, इंसॉल्वेंसी एंड बैंकरप्सी कोड से बहुत सारे पेंडिंग इश्यूज को एड्रेस करने की कोशिश की गई है और इससे लिक्विडिटी और अपॉर्चुनिटी दोनों पैदा हुए हैं। और पिछले मानसून सेशन में पार्लियामेंट से कई ऐसे बिल पास कराए गए हैं जो देश के इकोनॉमिक और फाइनेंशियल सिस्टम को और डायनेमिक बनाने में मदद करेंगे, ऐसा मेरा विश्वास है। अब उदाहरण के लिए फैक्टरिंग रेगुलेशन अमेंडमेंट बिल से छोटे बिजनेस की क्रेडिट अवेलेबिलिटी बट नेचुरल है बढ़ेगी। द डिपॉजिट इंश्योरेंस एंड क्रेडिट गारंटी कॉर्पोरेशन अमेंडमेंट बिल से स्मॉल डिपॉजिटर्स के अधिकारियों की भी रक्षा होगी। और इन रिफॉर्म्स के साथ साथ हमारी सरकार और प्रधानमंत्री जी ने देश में एक ऐसा पॉलिसी इकोसिस्टम बनाया है जिससे इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, हेल्थ, एजुकेशन, सैनिटेशन, ड्रिंकिंग वाटर और एनर्जी के साथ साथ डिफेंस सेक्टर में एक नई एनर्जी और इंथुजियाज्म देखने को मिल रहा है। मित्रों, चूंकि मैं देश का डिफेंस मिनिस्टर हूं, इसलिए मैं डिफेंस सेक्टर में हुए रिफॉर्म की चर्चा अलग से आपके साथ कुछ करना चाहूंगा। आप जानते हैं पिछले 2 सालों में कई ऐसी प्रोग्रेसिव पॉलिसी बनाई गई हैं जिसने इंडियन डिफेंस सेक्टर को एक अनप्रेसिडेंटेड ग्रोथ ट्रेजेक्टरी दी है। आपको जानकारी है कि हमारी सरकार ने एफडीआई कैप की लिमिट बढ़ाकर अब ऑटोमेटिक रूट से 74% कर दी है। कुछ विशेष परिस्थितियों में, जैसे कटिंग एज टेक्नोलॉजीज के मामले में, गवर्नमेंट रूट के थ्रू यह लिमिट 100% तक की गई है। और इसका लाभ लेने के लिए मैं आपके माध्यम से अमेरिकन इंडस्ट्रीज को भारत में इन्वेस्ट करने के लिए आमंत्रित करता हूं। पिछले साल ही डिफेंस इक्विपमेंट और प्लेटफॉर्म की एक्विजिशन के लिए डिफेंस एक्विजिशन प्रोसीजर 2020 में बाई एंड मेक कैटेगरी डाली गई है। यह पिछले साल ही हुआ है और इसके तहत अगर किसी फॉरेन वेंडर से कोई प्लेटफॉर्म खरीदा जाता है तो उसे दिए गए ऑर्डर का एक निश्चित हिस्सा भारत में निर्मित करना होता है। इससे एक और उस वेंडर को जहां एक और किफायती वर्कफोर्स मिल जाती है तो दूसरी ओर भारत को टेक्नोलॉजी और ट्रेंड मैन पावर भी मिल जाता है। यह स्थिति दोनों के लिए ही विन विन सिचुएशन होती है, दोनों के लिए विन विन सिचुएशन है। और इसी तरह डिफेंस मिनिस्ट्री द्वारा डिफेंस प्रोडक्शन एंड एक्सपोर्ट प्रमोशन पॉलिसी का ड्राफ्ट, जिसे आप जानते होंगे DPEPP 2020, यह भी जारी किया गया है। इन सारी चीजों पर एक ब्रेन स्टार्मिंग करने के बाद जो भी फैसले लिए जा सकते होंगे वो फैसले हमने लिए हैं और यह डिफेंस सेक्टर में सेल्फ रिलायंस, आत्मनिर्भरता के लिए हमारी डिफेंस प्रोडक्शन कैपेबिलिटीज को बढ़ावा देने में एक गाइडिंग डॉक्यूमेंट का काम करेगा। और इस डॉक्यूमेंट में फॉरेन इन्वेस्टमेंट इंसेंटिवाइज करने के लिए कई प्रोविजन किए गए हैं। और साथियों, मैं चाहूंगा कि आप सभी अपने वैल्यूएबल सजेशन देकर इसे और बेहतर बनाने में अपना योगदान दें। यह हमारी आप लोगों से अपील है, विनम्र अपील है। और आप लोग भारत सरकार द्वारा जारी पॉजिटिव इंडिजनाइजेशन लिस्ट से भी अवगत होंगे। इस लिस्ट में आइडेंटिफाइड आइटम्स की एक समय सीमा के बाद बाहर से नहीं खरीदी जाएंगी। ऐसे 209 आइटम्स हैं जिनकी लिस्ट हमने जारी की है। और कई बार देखने में ऐसा लगता है कि यह लिस्ट दुनिया के साथ बिजनेस अपॉर्चुनिटीज घटाने का काम करेगी, पर मैं यह साफ कर देना चाहता हूं कि यह लिस्ट वास्तव में बिजनेस कोलैबोरेशन बढ़ाने के लिए एक इनविटेशन है। और मित्रों, हम इस लिस्ट के सभी आइटम्स को बनाने में आत्मनिर्भर तो हैं, परंतु इन्हें इंप्रूव करने के लिए हमें आपकी मदद की जरूरत चाहिए, आपकी मदद चाहिए। हम चाहते हैं कि आप न केवल बिजनेस में बल्कि एक रिलेशनशिप में इन्वेस्ट करें, जिससे पूरा डिफेंस इकोसिस्टम प्रोग्रेस कर सके। और यह हमारे मेक इन इंडिया और मेक फॉर द वर्ल्ड के विजन के अनुरूप है। और मैं ये सब यूं ही नहीं कह रहा हूं, आप सभी जानते होंगे कि हमारे यहां 2 डिफेंस इंडस्ट्रियल कॉरिडोर्स भी हैं जहां आप प्लग एंड प्ले मॉडल में इन्वेस्ट कर सकते हैं। और हम भारत में एरो इंजन कॉम्प्लेक्स भी स्थापित कर रहे हैं। आप स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनरशिप मॉडल और ज्वाइंट वेंचर्स के द्वारा हमारे डिफेंस इकोसिस्टम का हिस्सा भी बन सकते हैं। इंडस्ट्रीज की जो बेसिक से लेकर एडवांस रिक्वायरमेंट्स होती हैं उन्हें हम अच्छी तरह पूरा कर रहे हैं। और इसके आगे भी यदि आपके सुझाव होंगे तो हम उसका स्वागत करेंगे, उस पर भी विचार करेंगे। और देश में 500 से अधिक कंपनियों ने डिफेंस लाइसेंसेज लिए हैं, जिनमें से कुछ MSMEs हैं। और हमारे पास एक इंक्लूसिव स्टार्टअप सिस्टम भी है। और हमने 2024 तक आत्मनिर्भरता और निर्यात यानी इंपोर्ट के दोहरे उद्देश्य को प्राप्त करने के लिए डिफेंस और एरोस्पेस सेक्टर में 1,75,000 करोड़ के कारोबार का टारगेट निर्धारित किया है। और इसमें 35,000 करोड़ का एक्सपोर्ट भी शामिल है। और साथियों, हमारे पास इस क्षेत्र में 5,000 से अधिक एक्टिव यूनिट्स के साथ एक मजबूत MSME सेक्टर है। और वे बड़े अमेरिकी कारपोरेट्स के लिए स्पेयर पार्ट्स तैयार करने में भागीदार हो सकते हैं। अपनी नीतियों और प्रयासों के चलते आज देश में बहुत बिजनेस फ्रेंडली माहौल तैयार हुआ है। ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस में आज भारत 63rd रैंक तक पहुंच चुका है और इसमें और भी सुधार होने का यह सिलसिला लगातार जारी है। और मित्रों, कोविड संकट के बाद की इकोनॉमिक रिकवरी में आप लोगों का बहुत बड़ा कंट्रीब्यूशन है, इसलिए स्वाभाविक रूप से आप लोगों से उम्मीदें और भी बढ़ जाती हैं। और मैं चाहता हूं कि इंडियन डिफेंस सेक्टर में आप न केवल अपनी मैन्युफैक्चरिंग यूनिट लगाएं, बल्कि भारत का असली पोटेंशियल रियलाइज करने के लिए ज्वाइंट वेंचर करके टेक्नोलॉजी का भी ट्रांसफर करें। आप पाएंगे कि हमारे यहां ब्रिलियंट माइंड्स मौजूद हैं और यहां प्रोडक्शन करना काफी कॉस्ट इफेक्टिव भी है, जो आपकी टेक्नोलॉजी के साथ मिलकर बहुत बेहतर परिणाम देंगे। और इसको भी एक कदम आगे बढ़ाते हुए मैं चाहता हूं कि आप सब देश के यंग माइंड्स के साथ रिसर्च एंड डेवलपमेंट की प्रोसेस भी शुरू करें। इससे इंडस्ट्रीज के बीच लिंकेज बढ़ेगा और साथ ही एकेडमिया और रिसर्च मिलकर डिफेंस का हम एक पूरा इकोसिस्टम डेवलप करेंगे और हमारा देश मेक फॉर द वर्ल्ड की दिशा में तेजी से आगे बढ़ सकेगा। Friends, the foreign OEMs can set up manufacturing facilities individually or partner with Indian companies through a joint venture or technology agreement to capitalize on the Make in India opportunity. There is a lot of scope for the American and Indian defense industry for co-production and co-development. Indian industry can also supply components to American industry, and American firms such as Lockheed Martin and Boeing already have a major presence in India, and I am confident that other American firms will find India as a major investment destination for defense manufacturing. I believe the time is ripe for Indo-American business cooperation to move forward from a buyer-seller relationship to a more meaningful and sustainable economic and business cooperation, which benefits both the countries. साथियों, मैं एक बार फिर से इस इंडो-यूएस इकोनॉमिक समिट के माध्यम से आप सभी को यह भरोसा देना चाहता हूं, भारत में बिजनेस फ्रेंडली एनवायरनमेंट बनाने के लिए यह सरकार न्यू आइडियाज के लिए पूरी तरह ओपन है और हम डिफेंस सेक्टर में हर तरह की इंटरप्रेन्योरशिप और मैन्युफैक्चरिंग को पुश करने के लिए पूरी तरह से कमिटेड है। और हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जी के नेतृत्व वाली यह सरकार, मोदी जी के नेतृत्व की यह सरकार डेवलपमेंट के काम करने के लिए पूरी तरह से समर्पित है, कमिटेड है। We are ready to act as a friend, philosopher and guide with whom you can freely discuss the issues and problems pertaining to industry and business. और साथियों, जब भारत आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव मना रहा है तो हमारे लिए मौका है नए गोल सेट करने का, और इसी नए गोल सेट करने के साथ साथ नए संकल्प भी लेने का। और मुझे पूरा भरोसा है कि इस काम में इंडो यूएस के बीच, इंडिया और यूएस के बीच जो इकोनॉमिक और स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनरशिप है वह एक स्प्रिंग बोर्ड का काम करेगी। और आप लोगों का जो फोरम है वह इसके लिए एक ब्रिज का काम करेगा। और मैं पूरी तरह से कॉन्फिडेंट हूं यह रिलेशनशिप और मजबूत होनी चाहिए। यह भारत के लिए तो फ्रूटफुल होगा ही, मैं मानता हूं कि यह यूएस के लिए भी फ्रूटफुल होगा। और हम लोगों की इंडो यूएस ये बॉन्डिंग और पहले के कंपैरिजन में भी और अधिक मजबूत होगी। और यह केवल दोनों देशों के लिए ही लाभकारी होगी ऐसा नहीं है, बल्कि पूरी इंटरनेशनल कम्युनिटी के लिए भी यह लाभकारी हो सकती है, बेनिफिशियल हो सकती है। आप सबने इस कार्यक्रम में मुझे आमंत्रित किया, मैं आप सबका आभारी हूं। और अंत में ज्यादा कुछ न कहते हुए पुनः आप सबको धन्यवाद देते हुए अपना निवेदन समाप्त करता हूं। आप सबको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
ऑनरेबल रक्षा मंत्री जी, हमारे पास शब्द नहीं है कि हम कैसे आपका धन्यवाद करें। If it was a physical function, I would have requested everyone that this overview deserved a standing ovation. So that is the least we can do.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely.
Thank you very much. So nice of you.
It is.
Thank you very much.
It was not just a bird's eye view of the overall developments which are taking place in India, but it was an overview of whatever significant changes in economy have been taking place during the last 7 to 8 years under the present leadership of Prime Minister Modi and with leaders like your good self. In your address, you refer to the 2 saal ka jhatka, that pandemic came. Yes, but that we learned our lessons from that. And the government came out with flying colors in meeting the challenge of pandemic, you see. Of course, some help from the industry also, which has been which has been acknowledged by your good self. You have referred to optimism. Yes, but it is not just optimism based only on, you see, our expectations. It is the hard reality that yes, optimism is based on performance. It is reforms coupled with performance, in which I think your government has succeeded to a great extent, you see. So your promises and your performances go hand in hand together. You have referred to investment in relationships. I think that is a very significant, very important point that you have made, that we need to invest in continue to create good relationship between US and India, not just in the matter of economy, but overall, because there is a big responsibility on our two countries being, you see, pillars of the rule of law in the world, with largest populations, with commitment to rule of law. But that rule of law has to go along with the economic sustainable development. And that is what India and US are marching forward towards that. Atmanirbharta is definitely the requirement of the day. We have to be self-sufficient. We have to promote our exports also. हमारा निर्यात सब और होना चाहिए. And even in the field of defense, the ministry which you very ably hold, sir, there is a need, you see, to understand what are the implications, keeping not only our two countries' interests, but the global interest wherever required, because defense sector plays a very important role, not only for the country, but also for the entire region and possibly because to the world also. Therefore, I think it is a very enlightening, educative, informative, profound address by your good self, and we thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prasenji. Thank you.
And now I have great pleasure in requesting my colleague in the profession and a very eminent lawyer of the country, Mr. Rohit Kochhar, who heads the law firm of Kochhar and Company, which has its offices not only in India at various places, but also in the United States. So there could not be a better example than someone like Mr. Rohit Kochhar to propose a vote of thanks. He is the chairman of Kochhar and Company and the Senior Vice President, Regional Vice President of the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce. So over to you, Mr. Co-Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bhasin. Honorable Minister, Mr. Rajnath Singh ji, I will begin by echoing Dr. Bhasin's sentiments that your speech really left us speechless. It was so inspiring, encouraging, as well as motivating. Sir, you spoke about how strategic the phrase you used is strategic partnership between India and the US. And I respectfully echo that because our partnership, I always say, is symbiotic. And sir, you also touched upon a very important point that our partnership has become all the more relevant given the fact that we're not just grappling with a pandemic, but with so many new geopolitical challenges in the region. Sir, you aptly mentioned India bounced back quicker and better than many economies of the globe. And the new India that you spoke about, which promises opportunity, performance, and growth, will be a beacon for resilience and recovery during the post-pandemic period. Sir, while encouraging US companies to invest in greater numbers in India, you also laid down in a very succinct yet comprehensive manner the roadmap for greater collaboration and cooperation between our respective nations. But sir, I must remind the 5,000 delegates who, sir, were witness to your highly invigorating speech that, sir, it is under your leadership that in just 2 years, our country's defense exports have risen to 17,000 crores as against a meager 2,000 crores in 2014. Sir, you aptly reminded us that it is during your speech on the union budget in February 2021 that you coined the mantra, Make in India for the world. Honorable Minister, Mr. Rajnath Singh, you have pioneered public-private collaboration in defense manufacturing like never before and exuded confidence which will soon make India's military products available not just for domestic use, but for the world at large. Sir, you also spoke about self-reliance. It is under your dynamic leadership that the defense sector of India is slowly but steadily marching towards self-reliance. And sir, I will conclude my vote of thanks by saying that you, Honorable Minister, Mr. Rajnath Singh ji, have truly embodied the vision of the Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, in taking rapid steps to bring about Atmanirbharta in the defense sector. And sir, I can promise on your behalf, on behalf of your ministry, I can tell the whole world that if you continue providing us your leadership and your guidance, then India and the defense sector will march to its greatest glory under Mr. Rajnath Singh. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rohit.
Sir, with your permission, I just want to quote one sentence. What the Prime Minister said yesterday, because it came out of what your ideas about 75 years. This is what you see the Prime Minister said yesterday. He said the 75th year of India's independence is an inspiring occasion. The next 25 years are invaluable for the emergence of a new and glorious India.
Yeah, Vasanji. Good.
End on that note, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So thanks, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for your participation, and I think it was
So on the same
Exactly.
line, we'll continue with the working session for defense and aerospace.
Yeah. Sure.
Thank you very much.
All the
Thank you.
best. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
So I guess we can,
Well, you're live now. Yes, you are. Yeah.
okay, if you'd like, I can kick this off now. And I see Captain Farmer is there as well. So, you know, I would echo the sentiments from the prior session. You know, in the spirit of cooperation and collaboration and economic growth between U.S. and India, the defense and security pillar has become such an important component of that. And I think there are so many U.S. companies now today with partnerships and presence in India that in addition to the very large increase in U.S. sales of defense capability to India over the last decade, proportionally in parallel, we as U.S. companies have invested and I would say established a foundation with the Indian aerospace and defense companies, many of them emerging, many of them well established, and really expanding that ecosystem. And I think what's also very important, and I'm going to turn it over to Captain Farmer, is that also as we look at the foundation that's been established over the last decade, that's going to really be the catalyst for our growth going forward. It is those foundational agreements from a government perspective, and most recently the Industrial Security Annex and the BECA, Basic Exchange and Cooperation Agreement. These are really important elements that help enable U.S. companies like us from Lockheed Martin and others to engage and work together closely with Indian companies to develop and deliver the capabilities that are very unique and specific to the Indian Ministry of Defense and Services. So with that, I'd like to hand this over to Captain Michael Farmer. Captain, it's great to have you here. He is now leading the Office of Defense Cooperation here in New Delhi, a very important role that we work through, not just on foreign military sales, but very much in terms of how we work together on a G2G and company-to-company basis and company-to-government basis to bring our best capabilities. So, Captain Farmer, over to you.
Bill, so you know, the speech we just heard from the Honorable Minister of Defense was not only a test of my Hindi skills, which I am glad to say that I took several months of Hindi before I came here, so I was actually able to follow, but a reminder of the topic which Bill shared with me for tonight, which is the foundation of the future, partnering for capability and growth. Because a lot of what the Honorable Minister was talking about was the opportunities that we have for the U.S. government, Indian government, in this case, in the fields of defense and aerospace, to work together for a deeper and broader partnership in the range of, you know, defense endeavors, which our own Secretary of State Blinken, during his visit in May, talked about. You know, he said that, you know, working together on so many of the important challenges of our time, which of course Honorable Minister of Defense also mentioned, the ones that are having a profound impact on the lives of the citizens of both countries. And that's really what it comes down to, right? Is it's not just one or the other, it's both countries together. And that the importance is that a partnership between the two countries is vital and strong. And again, much in line with the Honorable Minister of Defense, increasingly productive. You know, and as I've met for the last 2.5 months with Bill and his team, as well as almost all of the other main participants in the U.S.-India defense relationship, the habit sometimes on our end, especially in the military side, because we like to quantify everything, is to fall back on numbers, right? How much has the relationship grown? In 2003, there was almost no FMS. And then today, we throw in numbers, billion this, billion that, 20 billion here. And in the military, especially because we like to quantify everything, that's important to us. But for me, what's more important is that the relationship is not a reflection of numbers. That's a transactional relationship. What we have, what the Honorable Secretary was talking about, is a relationship that is not transactional. It's based on inherent shared needs, wants, and desires of two like-minded nations, two democratic nations that both face the same challenges globally, whether it be environmental, whether it be regional challenges to law and order, whether it be regional challenges to establish rule of the sea. So, it's important that, for me at least, I'm always constantly reminding, my own, military visitors that not to look at this in just terms of dollars and cents, because that doesn't tell you the kind of relationship that we have, and more importantly, the relationship that we're building towards. So I'm going to skip all the, once upon a time it was $0 and now it's billions, and get to the meat of it, because it's about the relationship, right? And my job as the chief of the Office of Defense Cooperation, working for Admiral Laubacher, who's our senior defense official and defense attaché, simply put, is to grow a military to military and then government to government relationship. Now, one of the ways I do that, as I work with Lockheed Martin and Boeing, Raytheon and Textron every day, is through foreign military sales, direct commercial sales, that sort of thing. It's that equipment that's delivered and then used, that's the magic, right? So in the last couple of weeks, you've seen Indian C-130s and C-17s, American defense products, flying Indian citizens out of Afghanistan under repatriation. We have Boeing P-8I maritime patrol aircraft working with Indian P-8I maritime patrol aircraft in the local region, conducting fishery patrols, counter-drug operations, sea surveillance stuff. And then as we speak today in San Diego, Indian pilots, air crews, and maintainers are learning to operate, maintain the MH-60 Romeo, another American product, in San Diego at one of our fleet training squadrons. So through these operations and these training efforts, both governments are working together, and again, getting towards those very challenging shared global problems. And that's really what the Office of Defense Cooperation does, right? And then what are we going to do in the future, though, right? That's what we're doing today. So, and I've bored a lot of our U.S. defense contractors with this, but I do not see India in 10 or 20 years as a country that buys through FMS whole U.S. systems. This is a country that has missions to the moon, missions to Mars, a growing and really exciting tech development sector, biopharmaceutical sector. I see our companies working more closely with Indian companies on exactly what the Honorable Minister was talking about in a defense ecosystem, integrating in Indian platforms those best products, the things that we do so well, whether it's software integration, command and control, certain really exotic and niche sensors, some weapon systems, but integrating onto Indian platforms. And I believe that that's the future, and also that gets after what the Indian government's asking us to do, which is to help empower them to employ Indians, to grow Indian industry, and to see them not as a growing challenger, but a growing contributor, and one which someday, or is already today, we are importing from them pieces like Apache fuselages, the empennage, the C-130s that builds in Hyderabad, celebrating today, and more of that, where we find best value in Indian companies to take with their manufacturing and to integrate them into our systems. Now, it's something that's very exciting for me. Was a couple weeks ago, I got to sign or help sign the initial co-production, co-development case for air-launched UAVs. So for the first time with India, we have a clean sheet co-development and in the future co-production of a unmanned air vehicle that is launched by other aircraft or other unmanned air vehicles. The unmanned air vehicle, a lot's made of it, right? And it's not all that, but it is the way of the future for battlefield reconnaissance, for keeping high-value platforms out of harm's way, and it is something that both nations can contribute to. We've got amazing software engineers here in India. We partner with some of the best defense research laboratories here, and with our Air Force Research Laboratory, and this is a really exciting development that again takes that relationship further as equals, right? Which is the whole point of this thing. So, getting down to it, like, this is the foundation of our future, which is the title for this session, right? And how do we partner for that capability and growth? And again, it's not going to be through foreign military sales and direct commercial sales in the way we've done it in the past. It's going to be through integration, through working with our Indian partners for forging those relationships, and really following the Make in India policy, not only because it helps India, but again, in my own opinion, in the long run, helps us find value, helps, the companies, because, they do operate on a profit. They're not non-profit entities. And so value is found in India. That is true now. It will be true in 10 years. And it's true going forward for the future. So I want to leave us with this idea that in 5 or 10 years, Indian 60 Romeos, Indian P-8Is, Indian F-18s operating in conjunction with American 60 Romeos, P-8Is, F-18s alongside US ships, the Indian Air Force, and in some cases the Indian Army will jointly tackle important things like humanitarian assistance, disaster relief, which tends to be something of an ongoing project for us, and is really one of the most value-added things that we do on a day-to-day basis, right? We're meant to fight wars, but where do people remember us most? It's when we respond to things like the tsunami, or this iconic picture of an American aircraft carrier full of helicopters delivering food and water to people. Well, this is us with the Indian military in 5 or 10 years. Fisheries management, right? The Indian Ocean, areas around Australia, hugely important to the economies and livelihoods of populations of both Australia and India and others. Again, working together to keep law and order on the high seas through joint operations that are all made possible through this use of similar equipment, and then going down the road to the exchange of equipment and ideas and operational habits. So that's what I want to kind of leave you with and wrap up this all up. That is the function to which the Office of Defense Cooperation today and into the future works. And this is what I try to portray to all of our American companies when I meet with them. And then more and more when I meet with the Indian companies who are taking advantage of these opportunities to compete in Air Force Research Laboratory or DARPA competitions, as we try and select, up and comers in things like artificial intelligence. So back over to you, Bill.
Thank you, Captain Farmer. And you summed it up really well. I mean, the focus here is in this panel and this group we've brought together is how we look at the foundation for the future, how we're partnering with, for capabilities and growth. And you really summed it up well in terms of how important it is to have that government-to-government partnership and the role that the Office of Defense Cooperation plays, not just in foreign military sales and direct commercial sales, but ultimately it's about delivering capability. And and we're proud to be a part of that in terms of even the examples you mentioned in terms of humanitarian assistance and disaster relief, because we see that every day, as you said, and really I think the ability for us to bring our best capabilities going forward to extend that. I can speak at least on behalf of Lockheed Martin that we're focused on bringing capabilities to our customer. Yes, we're in business, but that is where we find the greatest opportunity to be impactful and effective as a company. Now, I'd like to introduce Mr. Sumit Ray. Sumit is the Regional Director of Government Affairs and Public Policy for Southeast Asia for Raytheon Technologies. Sumit, we've known each other a long time. And I think it's important to note that you can cover some of the other business areas that have been really integrated under Raytheon and have established a firm presence here in India, setting that foundation and how you see the future going forward. Over to you.
Thank you, Bill. Captain Fowler, I couldn't have agreed with you more on the manufacturing and increasing the pace and partnership with the Indian companies, We at Raytheon believe in that, and as you are aware that Raytheon comprises of 4 large business units. It's not only weapons, but it's also Pratt & Whitney jet engines. We have almost 1,500 engines flying in the country. We have Collins Aerospace, then we have the Raytheon legacy Raytheon missiles and defense and intelligence and space. In fact, Bill, if you remember, UTC, erstwhile UTC till about last year, was one of the first companies to set up manufacturing in the country with a Tata Sikorsky JV way back 15 years ago. And we didn't have a business case for making those investments in the country, but we still took the risk. And we believe that India had got a good long-term growth story. The potential is there in the country, and that sooner or later, the Make in India campaigns will pick up. And that's when we decided to set up our manufacturing plants, and then we followed it up with Collins Aerospace manufacturing. We further engaged with the engineering departments and set up training centers for Pratt & Whitney. So we are absolutely convinced that manufacturing is the way to go in India, localizing is the way to go in India. And now we are working with our Raytheon Missiles and Defense and the Intelligence Space divisions to ensure that and explore how we can make some of our products here in India, Bill. So one of the things that I wanted to kind of bring to your notice that I resonate with what Minister said today, that some of the policy initiatives that have been taking, particularly the DAP 2020, has been a game changer. I just heard that the PLI scheme has been extended to the auto components parts. And I think that would be a great step forward if the government also, enhances the same PLI scheme to aerospace and defense industry as well. State governments like Karnataka, state governments like Telangana are actually providing PLI-linked, performance-linked incentives for manufacturing. For our upcoming $150 million investment for Collins Aerospace, as well as Pratt engineering centers, we are almost looking at almost 20 to 25 million incentive package from the government of Karnataka, which is huge. If that be the case, then why wouldn't foreign companies want to manufacture in the country? And that's a great incentive for all of us, because that will help us to bring in more investments in the country. We'll try to bring in more FDI in the country now that the foreign direct investment thresholds have been increased to 74%. So for us, it makes a lot of sense to do manufacturing in the country. And we have, all countries have their own challenges. India is no different, or India is no more easier than other countries. India is no more difficult than other countries. And if you have seen the bureaucracy, which has actually been helping forward with all the manufacturers, the red carpet is actually there. The bureaucracy no longer haunts you the way it used to haunt us some 2 decades ago. So to my mind, it makes absolute sense to increase our foothold in the country, to increase your manufacturing and engineering and training in the country. Over to you.
Thanks, Sumit. I mean, actually, you make a great point too, that, it's when we think about the foundation and the partnerships we create, we're also partnering with state governments, and they're providing a lot of the incentives as they're competing to attract the business. And that's going to be very important as we, take this to the next level, move up the value chain, and then also extend it to sustainability with MRO. And I think that's what we're going to see in the future here, and with the liberal policies that have really incentivized us and allowed us, I would say also, not just incentivized us to make the business case for India, to invest here at a higher level, to produce in India, not just for India, but make in India for the world as well. Now, Sukaran Singh from the CEO of Tata Aerospace and Defense was going to join us. I was just with him earlier today. He sends his regrets. Unfortunately, he's on an airplane now. But I'll just make a brief comment based on the event that we had today on his behalf, that I really see Tata Aerospace and Defense has established joint ventures with many of the U.S. prime foreign OEMs in aerospace and defense, and they celebrated Boeing's Apache 100th delivery last month. Today, I mentioned the C-130J, and we're completing 10 years of our joint ventures, both with our Lockheed Martin Tata joint venture, as well as the Sikorsky one that you mentioned, Sumit. And so I think what's effective is Tata in taking that lead is engaging a very robust, now developing and a very robust aerospace and defense ecosystem that is benefiting everyone. Many of them are MSMEs, and those are also the same suppliers that we're working as part of our global supply chain. And so when you think about that foundation and what that means for the future, that's going to allow us to meet our indigenous content
most of what was indigenous product, and everything else was procured from outside. So that was very clear. 2001 onwards, actually from May 2001, the government actually brought about an amendment to the FDI policy whereby 26% of foreign direct investment was allowed or permissible for in the defense sector. Of course, 100% was open to private players. What actually happened was that the private players, the small MSMEs came in, small arms, munitions, etc. However, in 2005, the government decided that enough, I mean, there was not much happening. So they introduced something called the offset policy. Technically, the offset policy was introduced which required the foreign sellers to invest back into India or procure into India, given the huge outlay of defense of expenditure when we procure from outside. Of course, it led to formations of JV for license. Simple components were licensed to India. In 2015, there was a further rise in the policy insofar as FDI was concerned, and foreign direct investment in defense went up to 49% under the automatic route, which meant that up to 49% you could invest in India without any approvals. And above that, the government would take a decision on a case-to-case basis, which based on how much of access is allowed to modern and state-of-the-art technology. Now, the problem with wording such as these is that in law, we say that equity is the size of the chancellor's foot, which means that the person who's looking at your file for approval is the one who decides what state of art of technology and modern is concerned, because there are no set standards for these. So every time you increase the threshold and expect FDI to be brought in, you also bring a roadblock. So that was the approach earlier. The point to understand is that this is not really ad hocism or a problem related to any particular government or organization. This is actually more to do with the fact that over the years, defense and probity in public space with respect to defense has grown due to the past experiences in the last decade of the last century. Now, so all these things have culminated in a time where the defense procurement and manufacture is seen as ad hoc. The policies are not seen as certain. Because as I'm a lawyer and I do investments, two things that we value most is is non-ad hocism and certainty in policy. This ensures that investments in India are long term. You've seen it in other sectors. However, in defense, there is hardly anything that we can go by way of certainty. So that's the basic background of the DAP that came out in 2020. The approach of the government was this, that India still needs to rely on global imports and high-end technologies, and then foreign OEMs have a role to play the growth and development of the sector in India. However, there was a progressive plan to achieve a greater level of sophistication in the coming years with tie-ups with OEMs, which would sort of bring down our reliance on imports. And this led to the increase in FDI. Of course, now you have 100% FDI, and you did have it since 2015. Now the automatic route goes up to 74%, which obviously puts foreign companies in control, which was seen as an anathema sometime in 2015. Now, the one interesting thing that happened in the DAP is that the offset clauses from certain kinds of agreements, that intergovernment agreements, G2G agreements, ab initio single vendor agreements, they have been removed. The reservations with this have, for the past 7 to 8 years, been coming up in various debates. They've been taken up in Parliament. The CAG has commented on that. Private players often speak of this, but it took about 15 years to first put it in place and dismantle it. And it was because it was found that there is not much of TOT, or transfer of technology, happening. It's more of purchase of simple components that compose most of the offset obligations. There was another statement sometime last year by the DG of Procurements who said that the offset clause also is leading to imports becoming more expensive, because foreign OEMs add certain amounts to the value to ensure that the offset obligations are complete. So therefore the offset clause had to be removed. The second interesting thing happened is the increase in IG, or the indigenous content. So in view, while the government recognizes that certain products can only be procured from outside, there is a progressive movement towards indigenous content. There is a progressive move towards banning the import of certain items from 2021 to 2025, and increasingly adding to that list. So these are the important developments legally that happened. However, from a more practical standpoint, legal is merely the framework, and the more practical thing is what happened on the ground. So when General Austin this year came, there was a lot of understanding, and we already have an institutional framework in place with the STA1, with the COMCASA, the BECA, the Quad, the exercise that we run together, Malabar, Red Flag, etc. So there is already a robust institutional dialogue. Its time has come for engaging the private sector in both countries to connect, because while the Indian private sector is more aware and more familiar with the problems that most of you are here for more than 20 years now, but while the the Indian public sector is aware of the problems. You are the people who would transfer the technology. More importantly,
Mr. Chandra, Mr. Chandra,
I'm sorry.
we're getting close to our time here. So if you could maybe just wrap up your comments, and then Kashish, please ask and let us know if there's any questions that we need to take. Otherwise, we can then try to close as per the time we've been allotted. So thank you.
I just have one more point to make. The whole point of the whole point is that, you know, government has over time showed a concerted effort to lay down enabling policies to achieve the goal, but the devil is actually in the detail, in implementation. You know, a major factor that impedes interest in the sector is a long procurement cycle and, you know, the uncertainties associated with the process. So India's large defense capital procurement may entice players, but often actually investments only happen if there is a certain amount of a certainty available, not just as far as law is concerned, but also with respect to implementation. That's about it. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Mr. Chandra, for going through kind of your perspective, and I think it hopefully for the people that are listening understand that there is a foundation, there is an evolution in the policy. I think a favorable evolution, and then as we look at it going forward into the future, it's going to be a function of the implementation. To your point, and you know, I heard recently the Defense Secretary comment. One of the focuses is to accelerate the procurement timelines in a manner that both delivers the capability to the services on an urgent need, but it helps companies like us that are trying to deliver that capability in a time-bound manner. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Kashish, if you could help us close here and comment if there's any other questions that we need to address.
Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks.